Hello, Salemites. Welcome to your Daily Dose of Days. We're going to do the Daily Dose of Days weekly recap from Monday, January 9th to Friday, January 13th. Now, if you remember Friday, I think, yeah, it was Friday. Was it Friday when Kate passed away? Kate's already passed away. And, Kayla is on her last leg. She's already talked to the two boys and she's asking for Stephanie. Chad is frantically, this is for Monday, Chad is frantically trying to reach Stephanie. He calls Stephanie and Alex were going to have dinner, and then the restaurant was closed, so they went back to the Kayak's mansion and had some grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. Stephanie was tired, kind of laying on him on the couch, and she said, "Oh, I'm so tired, and it's like 10 below outside or something." And he said, "Why don't you just stay here?" So they go up to the bedroom where they can finally be alone and get some time together. Stephanie goes into the bathroom to change, and while she's in the bathroom, Chad calls. And, Alex looks at the phone and he hits ignore. And I think Chad called again, and that's when Alex turned the phone off. He could have turned it off that first time, but I think Chad called a second time and he turned off the phone. Chad called many times after that, but the phone was off, leaving Stephanie messages. "Your mom has relapsed. She's sick. You need to get to the hospital. If you don't call me back, just get to the hospital." Okay. So, Rex and Roman, they are spending time with Katie. Roman he's broke down bad, man. And so is Rex, they're trying to comfort each other, and they are struggling with Kate's death. John decides that he's going to go take him a little visit to see Orpheus. And Orpheus thinks he's there to see Lucas, but Lucas says, "No, I'm here to see you, Orpheus." He said, what is with that light, man? Okay, hopefully it's not affecting my picture. Anyway, he's asking Orpheus where the orchid is, and Orpheus is like, "I don't know where the orchid is, and besides, the ladies already beat that out." And John said, "Well, they're getting sick again, and we need the orchid, and someone has stole it, and we just assumed it was you." And he said he doesn't have the orchid, he doesn't know who has the orchid, and he doesn't know where the orchid is. But he did say, "Well, it looks like Christmas came a little late here at the prison, but it still came," because that was pleasure to his ears to find out that all the ladies were getting sick again. So, they have their words. Lucas is frantic, so he goes over to the phone to call and check on his mother, to call Rex. And while John is talking to Orpheus, and that's when Rex tells Lucas that Kate has passed away. So, Lucas has a fit. He gets off the phone. He's wanting to fight. Well, he does. He's trying to fight with Orpheus. John's trying to tell him to settle down. John's freaked out, and he's like, "I gotta get out of here." So he left. Orpheus gives, after he calls Lucas a alcoholic, a drunk, and all kinds of stuff, he offers him a bottle of whiskey. He said, "I know what it's like to lose someone you love. I'm sorry about what I said earlier. Here you go." Trying to make him fall off the wagon. Orpheus is a devious little mamma jamma, isn't he? Anyway, most of Monday was about Uh, Everyone is just so sad around Salem because three of its, heroines here uh, are dying. They are going to die. All of them are going to die eventually. So Monday was about Kate dying and people uh, mourning her. And, you know, Stephanie, she's having a very hard time. She feels so guilty, you know, for turning her phone off. But it's bothering her because she says she's not somebody who turns her phone off. Very rarely does she ever turn her phone off. And she doesn't remember doing it that night. Okay, so we go on to Tuesday. Eric comes over to Marlena's and finds Kristen there, and he pulls out a gun and puts it to her head. Bam, girl. And, she's telling him, Eric, you're not a killer. You're not going to shoot me. How would you explain that to Rachel, that you killed her mother? And he's got that gun to her, threatening her because, his mother may die. Well, she will die. And Brady happens to walk in and he's like, Eric, what are you doing? And Brady tells Kristen, he gets Eric to give him the gun. And then he tells Kristen, he said, now I want you to get your stuff. I want you to pack and get the hell out of here. And he said that, get the hell out of here. And she's like, but Brady, what are you going to tell Rachel? And he said, don't worry about Rachel. You need to get out of here. And, she kept telling him, I don't know where the orchid is. If I did, I would have, whipped it out, basically, or whatever. I wouldn't have done this. And he said, but Kristen, you did do it. You're the reason these women are dying. Had you told us you had the orchid in the first place, they could have made another serum from it or something for anyone else that might ever run across this, or if the girls relapsed. So, he's like done with her. She's crying and she packs her suitcase and she leaves. Brady leaves as well, and he's going to find Chloe. So he goes over and he finds Chloe, and she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I've got to talk to you. So he goes in and he gives her the skinny on everything that's happened and how Kristen forced him to move her in and break up with Chloe. And Chloe's like, she thinks that's horrible, of course, but Chloe doesn't understand why Brady just didn't tell her, and she could have went along with it and acted like she didn't know. And Brady's like, I couldn't take that chance because, Marlene and Kate and Kayla's lives depended on me. Chloe's very upset, because she tells Brady, I wish I would have known that before I slept with Stefan, New Year's Eve in Miami. And he's like, oh no, I was afraid it had gone that far. And she's like, she expressed to him how much that whole situation hurt her, and he just let her hurt. So, she said she's sorry for everything that he's been through, and she, appreciates the fact he was trying to save people. But if he would have been honest with her, and she could have worked something out where she went along with it, that would be one thing. But being he didn't tell her anything, she had to push herself to get over him. So it doesn't look like for the moment that they are going to get back together. Gabby gets back home from her trip from Miami, of course, and she is devastated, crying. Rafe's trying to comfort her because Stefan doesn't love her or anything. But meanwhile, Stefan is on his way over to Gabby to talk to her, and he told her that he had talked to Johnny and Wendy, and, you know, he believed her that Rolf did brainwash him. And Gabby said, so now what are we going to do? Now we can be together. And he tells her, but he doesn't have those feelings for her now. But something happens that is not shown on screen, because he ends up hooking up with Gabby, and they go to find Rafe to see what they can do to find Rolf, because I guess maybe Stefan agreed to get reverse brainwashed or something. I don't know. Poor Chloe, Gabby too, man. They're all getting screwed over this. So Gabby was upset, but things might work out for Gabby yet. And I'd like to see Chloe and Brady get back together, but and she might after Stefan returns to Gabby, because I figure that will happen sooner or later. EJ breaks the news to Nicole about Kate dying, and all the ladies are dying and they're sick. And meanwhile, Johnny was confronted by Stefan about, what he did in Jakarta and stuff. And Johnny came clean and told him about him and Wendy and why they went there and what they wanted to find out. And Stefan's like, so you knew that he had brainwashed me and all this, and you didn't tell me. And he explained to him because Wendy asked him not to, because she was trying to protect her brother. And he said he knew it was wrong, and he apologized. So Stefan was ticked about it, but you get the impression that he possibly understands, So then we move on to Wednesday, the 11th. Kristen ends up going home. She rolls her suitcase into the DeMera mansion, and EJ's like, Kristen, what are you doing here? And she's like, well, I've come home. I've got no place else to stay, so I've come home. So he doesn't want her there, but then she's reminding him that she also knows that he knew that Stefan had been brainwashed and didn't come clean. And she's like, so, if you don't let me stay here, I'm going to tell our brother that you knew all along. Well, you knew all along too, you crazy psychopathic nut. So, I love Kristen, I do, but just because, she's so intelligent, really. And she knows how to work stuff, she knows how to threaten people and all kinds of stuff. So, Johnny told him the truth. So Lee is panicking, and we're on Wednesday now. He's panicking. He comes and finds Wendy, and he's telling her, I need you to go talk to Gabby. She thinks a lot of you, and tell her how sorry I am, and you can help us, work this out. And she's like, she hates you. I don't think this is going to work out. And he says, please, Wing Lee, please do this for me. He's very, you can see the psycho in his eyes. I don't know what he's going to be up to here. He should go to prison and lose his job. So, he's so frantic and demanding that Wendy says, okay, I'll go talk to her. So she goes to talk to her, and Stefan is there and had just got through telling her that Wendy and Johnny knew. So Gabby's pretty mad at Wendy, and I think she slammed the door on her face. So she said, she hated Lee and She'd never want anything to do with him again. So, Wendy goes back and he's like, "What'd you say? What'd you say?" And she's like, she hates you. She doesn't want anything to do with you. And probably me either. She's mad at me. Stefan was already there, so she knows. And Lee's like, having some kind of conniption fit. So, he's snapped is what he has. He's lost everything. You don't want to be around people when they've lost everything. They become desperate. So, Chloe, when she's talking to Brady, she tells him that she loves Stefan now, and that she would have never slept with him if she didn't have strong feelings for him. And Brady said, he didn't care how long it took. He was just gonna wait it out till she came back to him, and he left. So many people just, all kinds of things. So much love, missing each other kind of thing going on days. It makes you glad you don't live in Salem. So EJ ends up putting Kristen, she wants a room on one wing far away from everybody. This is not going to go over well because Stefan lives there, Johnny lives there, and Johnny's going to not want her there because she's the reason his grandma Kate's dead and the reason his grandma Marlena's going to die. But he will understand once EJ tells him she's blackmailing me. So, seriously though, I think Kristen should have a place at the mansion. I think all the DeMera children should band together, is what I think. And they shouldn't turn against each other for any reason. So, I think they all should work at DeMera and have equal... Well, it just seems like EJ has ran it more than anybody over the years, besides Stefano. So, who knows? So Gabby, she keeps telling Stefan, that light is bothering me now. She keeps telling Stefan that, don't you want your life back? Don't you want to love who you want to love? And don't you want your own feelings? So it made me think that he did, because Gabby and Stefan went to find Rafe and tell him, we got to find Roth. We found out he did this, this, and this. And Rafe is like, I'm already ahead of you. Johnny already told me where Roth was. We sent some people over to get him. Roth's gone. He's disappeared. His lab is emptied out. Who do you think tipped Roth off? I'm thinking it was probably Li Shin. It could have been Kristen, but I think it was Li Shin that tipped Kristen off. And that takes us to Wednesday. And then we go over to oh, now I got a big dark spot. What's happening? Anyway, so Thursday, the 12th. Roman, it starts out, Roman's talking to Kate. It makes you think she's alive there for a minute, because it just shows him, because he's saying, well, what do you think we should do with this? We're going to do this, this, and this. Something to do with the restaurant. And he's like, I know you always like to pick, or something. And then it shows the other person, and it's a very pretty purple urn, I guess, with Kate's ashes in it. And he's talking to Katie. Rex visits Lucas. Lucas tells him about Orpheus, and he shows him the bottle of whiskey that Orpheus gave him. So, Rex says, give me that bottle, and Lucas gave it to him because Lucas was wanting to down that bad. His mother just died. Chad visits Stephanie, and she is tore up over her mother and over her mother's death. And he takes over a card that Thomas and Charlotte have made uh, for Stephanie. And Charlotte writes a little note about, I lost my mommy too. And Thomas writes a pretty little note to her. It was just so precious and such a pretty card. And you know, Stephanie is just grief stricken because her mother has passed away. And she passed away Friday, yeah. And Stephanie just missed her. I mean, 5 minutes earlier, she would have got to say goodbye to her mother. Thanks to Alex. Yeah, I did like Alex. Now I'm like, oh. So, Chad stays with her for a while. He keeps trying to tell her, not, her, things that people would say, like, your mother knew that you loved her and this, that, and the other. And he tried comforting her, but it was aggravating him that she was carrying so much of that on her shoulder, blaming herself about everything. And then we see a scene where Patch goes in Kayla's office, and he sits down and, he's just looking around her office, picks up her glasses, he's crying, and he is mourning his sweetness. We are all mourning sweetness and the Katie. So, he said, I just keep thinking you're going to walk right in that door, and then the door opens, but you don't see anybody. And it's Jada, and she comes in to try to comfort Patch as much as she can. And he was like, he was telling her, he said, she had all these things in here. He said, this is a vase that Stephanie made for her when she was like in 2nd or 3rd grade. And she said, Kayla said she liked to have things from the kids and him in the office because it reminded her of family. And it kept her in remembrance of that when she was taking care of patients. She tried to remember that they had families. They had husbands and children that loved them. So to help her, give the best care. Of course, Kayla was a good doctor. They spent a lot of airtime with him in the office before Jada even came in. When it's going off Thursday, Sonny convinces Alex that he should go tell Stephanie the truth. And he's like, man, she would never, want to speak to me again if she knew that. And he said, do you really want to start this new relationship on a lie? He said, you should just be honest. That way you don't have any, look at that light, man. That way you don't have any secrets. And so he was headed on his way. What's happening? To, is that battery already run dead? He was headed on his way to, tell Stephanie, and that's how it went off Thursday. Now we will move on to Friday. Friday the 13th? Ooh. Okay, so Friday we start off with Leo's on the phone talking to Gwen, and he's like, he is trying to convince Gwen, telling Gwen that he and her need to get a lawyer or go to the police and tell them, their side of everything and turn on Xander for their freedom. And that's what he's talking to Gwen about on the phone. And she's like, no. You gotta, how many times have I told you, you've got to look out for numero uno. And Will overhears this and says, "Oh, yeah, you always do that, don't you?" Because, Will has come home to see his grandma Marlena and, of course, to attend his Grandma Kate's funeral and Aunt Kayla. So, he ends up going over and talking to Gwen in person and telling her how Wilhelmino overheard the last part of their conversation. And this is on Friday the 13th. So, um, he said, "Why can't we talk to a lawyer and just see what our options are?" And he said, "I happen to know the best lawyer." So he calls Sloan. And she comes over being a snarly little witch like she is, but I love Sloan. And she's like, "Well, I almost didn't come because you're not no good at paying your bills." And he told them they had a situation. And she's like, and Gwen's like, "Well, I just have to make sure it's confidential." And Gwen's like, well, Sloan said, "Well, if you want it to be confidential, I'm going to need a retainer." And they're like, "Okay." So, and then Leo, of course, like, "Go on, Gwen, write the woman a check." So I guess she paid the retainer. They told him the whole scoop of everything they did. And she told him, she's like, Leo's like, "So what are our options?" And she's like, "Oh, that's so cute. You think you have options." She's like, "You don't have any options. You two kids are screwed." And he's like, "Well, you were able to help me out of a murder charge." And she said, "But you didn't commit the murder." She said, "This is different. You all committed a crime." So, she said the best that she could probably do is try to offer see if she could get some kind of plea deal for him, but they told her they would let her know. My goodness. I know what I was gonna say, and I didn't get to. Thursday when it went off. Daggone it. Thursday when it went off, Alex was over at Stephanie's apartment, and she asked him. She's like, "Alex, I'm glad you're here. I want to ask you a question." She said, "On the night my mother died, are you the reason I didn't get to talk to my mother?" And it went off Thursday, just leaving you hanging there. So Friday, when it did get to them eventually, he ends up answering her, telling her yes. He was the reason. And she's, oh my God, she just unleashed on him, you can imagine. And she was crying, and he was wailed up too. And he kept telling her how sorry he was, and he said, "I didn't know what he wanted." And he said, "I just thought it was nothing, and whatever it was, it could wait." And she's like, "That wasn't your decision to make," and that's true. It'd have been different if she looked at it and just clicked it off or something. But he took that into his own hands. And she said she didn't like him policing her calls, and he had no right. And because of him, she didn't get to say goodbye to her mother. And crap. And he said, he was so sorry. He wished he could. Daggone it. I can't get that light out of here. He wished he could fix it. So, daggone it. I can't even see myself. So, she said, "This isn't something you can fix, Alex. I can't. We can't redo this." So she told him she didn't want to ever see him again. And he's like, "Stephanie, no, please." And she's like, "No, I know everything that I need to know." Oh, he said, "Well, you can ask Sonny. I already talked to him about how horrible I felt." And she said, "I don't have to talk to Sonny. I know what kind of man you are." She said, "I don't ever want to see you again." And she kept telling him to leave, and he wasn't wanting to leave, but he finally did leave. So, at the same time that's going on, Chad had ran into Sonny in the Horton Square, and he was talking about, how tore up Stephanie was. And he's like, she just blames herself because she turned her phone off and she don't remember it. She didn't get to say goodbye to her mother. And Sonny told her about that. Stephanie didn't do it. And he said, what are you talking about? And he ended up sharing with him that, Alex did it. And he's like, oh, so he just turned her phone off so no one could call her? And because he said, well, why would he do that? And Sonny said, well, they were trying to be alone, get some alone time. And he said, so he turns her phone off without her knowledge? And so no one could call her? And Sonny said, well, not no one, just you. Oh my God, Chad is beside himself. I wouldn't be surprised if the next time Chad sees Alex, he doesn't punch him in the nose. Now Chad was like, now I'm the one that's got to go break her heart. And he was so bent out of shape. And Sonny said, you don't have to do that. Alex is over there telling him now. And he did. And something else that Stephanie said when she was talking to him, she said, while my mother was dying, I was having sex with you. Do you know how disgusting that makes me? I understand exactly what she's saying. And that's the skinny. Allie is on her way to go see Grandma Marlena, and Chanel's going to watch Little Henry. So Allie goes to the hospital where she runs into Will, and they talk about how horrible all of this is. Meanwhile, there's a knock at Chanel's door, and it's Sloan. And she ends up giving Chanel some papers. She's filing civil suits against Chanel and Paulina. She's going to try to take all their money. So they had a few words, and when she reached in her bag to get the papers, Chanel was freaking out. She thought she had a gun, and Sloane's like, what, you thought I had a weapon? And she's like, no. So that's going on. And then Chanel calls Paulina over, and this is just another Paulina mess that is very uninteresting to me. So, that was going on. Will is confiding in Allie about how Leo's staying at the house, and, they don't like it, and all that crap. And that's going to wrap it up for this week. Monday the 9th through Friday the 13th. Subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you all in Salem.